The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. From the core to the spiral edges, their fleets carved paths of domination, their warships towering monuments of arrogance. Civilizations bent the knee or burned. And in their eyes, Earth was nothing, a fledgling world with noisy machines and primitive ambitions, a backwater species with no claim to the galactic stage. But in the shadows of Sol, a secret was being born. They called it Dauntless. The name was simple, but the ship was anything but. It wasn't built in orbit above the Earth or Mars, where spies could track its construction. No, its skeleton had been laid in silence beneath Europa's ice crust, its heart forged in caverns cut by fusion drills, its hull assembled in the crushing dark. Only a handful of humans even knew it existed. To the rest of the world, it was a myth whispered in military corridors and classified files that no one admitted existed. Captain David Mercer stood in the command deck as the Dauntless hummed to life. A man in his late 30s, his face carried the steady resolve of someone who had buried doubt years ago. The curved glass before him revealed nothing but black, a black so absolute it felt like the ship hung inside an endless coffin. "Power reading stable," reported Commander Sarah Whitfield, his second in command. Her voice was sharp, precise, yet beneath it lingered an excitement she couldn't quite bury. Reactor output exceeding predicted thresholds by 7%. Hull resonance holding. At the engineering pit below, Dr. Elias Munro hunched over his console, hands moving like a conductor before an orchestra. His dark hair hung loose, his glasses catching the glow of holograms. Elias was the genius who had written most of Dauntless into existence, but at that moment, sweat dampened his collar. "She's alive," he whispered. "The core's stable. We can attempt to jump at your command, Captain." David's hand brushed over the command rail, the metal cold and alive beneath his fingers. He had commanded destroyers, carriers, even orbital defense fleets, but this was different. The Dauntless wasn't just a ship, it was humanity's defiance made steel. And if the Empire discovered it? Status of the cloaking grid? David asked. "Online," Sarah replied. "We're invisible to long-range scanners, at least within Sol's interference. Once we leave this system," she let the sentence hang. "Out there, beyond the comfort of home, there would be no shadows deep enough to hide them." David nodded once. "Prepare for trial run. Helm, set course for the outer belt. Engineering, warm the slipstream drive." The bridge quieted. No one breathed too loudly. They all knew what they were about to do had never been done by human hands. Elias muttered equations under his breath as he adjusted the drive harmonics. The Dauntless slipstream wasn't like the Empire's gates or their crude warp corridors. It bent gravity itself, folding the ship through a tunnel carved from spacetime, something the Empire claimed could not be replicated outside their ancient foundries. But here they were. Humans. Doing the impossible. "Drive ready," Elias announced, his voice trembling with awe. David's lips pressed into a firm line. "Do it." The stars outside stretched, fractured, then collapsed into a tunnel of blinding white. The ship lurched, not violently, not chaotically, but like a giant exhaling around them. Space itself seemed to bend and hum, singing through the Dauntless frame. For a heartbeat, every crew member felt weightless, untethered from reality. Then, silence. The void reformed outside the viewport, stars rearranged in unfamiliar constellations. They had crossed the system in less than a blink. On the bridge, gasps filled the air. Sarah gripped her console, eyes wide. It worked. My God, it worked. Elias laughed, the sound almost hysterical. We did it. We actually did it. Mercer, David, we just rewrote physics. But David didn't smile. He leaned forward, staring into the endless black. His instincts screamed at him. Years of command had taught him that triumph always came with a price. Long-range scans, he ordered quietly. Sarah's hands danced over controls. Her smile faltered. Captain. I'm picking up movement. Small, but definite. Out here, near the belt, it's not ours. A cold weight settled in David's chest. Empire scouts. The Imperial frigate ISS Caravel drifted on silent patrol. Its commander, a thin-skinned Vare named Halrek, had grown used to boredom on the rim. Humans weren't considered a threat. Their ships were clumsy, their weapons weak, their tactics laughable. Guarding their system was more punishment than duty. But then the scanners lit up. Unidentified mass detected, his crew reported. Profile, doesn't match. Size, unclassified. Halrek leaned forward, mandibles clicking. Put it on screen. The Dauntless shimmered into view, a silhouette too sleek, too massive for human design. Its hull glimmered with a lattice of energy veins, its bow bristling with weaponry humans shouldn't even know how to assemble. For a moment, Halrek thought it must be some smuggled relic, a stolen prototype from the core. But then the ship shifted, engines igniting with gravity burns only theorized in Imperial academies. It was moving. Alive. Human. Halrek's throat tightened. Mark it. Record everything. Then get us out of here. The Caravel twisted into warp, fleeing into the dark. Back on the Dauntless, Sarah's voice cut sharp. Imperial vessel just made a jump. They saw us. Elias paled. That means they'll tell the Empire, David finished grimly. He turned to his crew, his voice steady but heavy. Ladies and gentlemen, our secret just died. From this moment forward, humanity is no longer invisible. No one spoke. The weight of those words sank deep. Outside, the Dauntless floated against the stars, its silhouette vast and defiant. The first warship of its kind, born from desperation, hidden from gods and tyrants alike. And now the galaxy knew it existed. The report spread like a virus through the halls of the Empire. At first, it was ignored. Then denied. Then feared. An Imperial scout had returned battered and shaken, its commander insisting that humans had fielded a ship beyond classification. A warship that outpaced, outmaneuvered, and outshone anything Earth should have been capable of producing for centuries. Admiral Sarev of the Core Fleet read the transcript twice, then ordered the officer confined. Fabrications. Delirium, he had declared. But as more scouts limped back with fractured sensor logs, the truth could no longer be hidden. The whispers became shouts, the humans have built something impossible. On Earth, the Dauntless rested in high orbit, its shadow sprawling across the blue marble below. Captain David Mercer stood in the observation ring, watching the planet spin. Clouds drifted across oceans, continents glittered with lights. Humanity slept unaware of the storm about to break. Intel confirms the Empire's listening posts are active, said Commander Sarah Whitfield, joining him at the viewport. Her reflection looked pale against the glass. If they didn't know before, they know now. David didn't turn. His hands clasped behind his back. And the politicians? Terrified, Sarah replied flatly. Half the council wants to dismantle Dauntless before the Empire retaliates. The other half wants to build 10 more. David finally looked at her, his eyes sharp. What do you think? Sarah's jaw tightened. I think it's too late to debate. They'll come. And when they do, this ship will either save us, or bury us. In the engineering decks, Dr. Elias Munro worked like a man possessed. His team ran diagnostics, recalibrated systems, stress-tested the slipstream drive until its hum became the heartbeat of the ship. He wiped oil from his hands, staring at the core pulsing with bluish-white energy. One of the junior engineers, a young woman named Carla Reyes, hesitated before asking, Sir, what if the Empire sends more than one fleet? Elias paused, looking at the core as though it might answer for him. Finally, he said, then let's make sure one ship is enough. The Empire did not wait long. From the black between stars came the first strike force, 12 frigates and a cruiser, dispatched not to conquer but to confirm. Their orders were simple: intercept Dauntless, test its strength, and erase it if possible. But on the bridge of the Dauntless, the crew was already waiting. Contacts at 125 Mark IV, closing fast, Sarah announced. Her voice was calm, but her knuckles whitened around the console. David's expression didn't change. Sound battle stations. Let's show them what they came to see. The crew moved with rehearsed precision, though tension pulsed in every motion. Dauntless had never faced a real fight. Every theory, every simulation, every sleepless night Elias had spent bent over schematics, all of it would now be tested in blood and fire. The Imperial commander aboard the cruiser ISS Voreth sneered as human signatures appeared on his display. "Primitive prey," he muttered. "One ship, alone. This will be a short engagement." "Orders, sir?" asked his lieutenant. "Destroy it." The fleet advanced. Dauntless moved. Not like a human vessel, lumbering and hesitant. Not like an Imperial ship, bloated with arrogance. It cut through the void like a blade, engines bending gravity itself. "Target lock established," Sarah reported. "Elias?" David called. The engineer's voice came sharp, exhilarated. "Weapons online. Gravity lances are charged." David raised his hand, then dropped it. "Fire." The void erupted. Dauntless forward batteries unleashed beams of compressed singularity energy, lances that tore through two frigates before their shields even registered the strike. The ships collapsed inward, imploding like crumpled cans. The crew stared in stunned silence for half a second before cheers broke loose. But the Empire was not so easily cowed. Plasma fire raked across Dauntless shields, the ship shuddering with the impact. Sarah gritted her teeth. "Shields holding at 80%. "Return fire," David snapped. Dauntless spun with impossible agility, its hull twisting against inertia as though the laws of physics bent to its will. Missiles streaked from its bays, weaving with AI precision, detonating against Imperial cruisers in blossoms of white fire. "3 more down," Sarah reported breathlessly. On the Voreth, panic set in. "This is impossible," the commander hissed. "No human ship should fight like this." "Sir, our shields are failing." "Retreat! Get us out of here." The remnants of the Imperial fleet scattered, some limping into warp, others drifting broken in silence. Dauntless hung in the void, its hull glowing with residual heat, its crew staring at the wreckage with disbelief. Sarah exhaled slowly, almost a laugh. We did it." Elias slumped into his chair, wiping sweat from his brow. "No. Not yet. This was just their scouts. They'll send more. A lot more." David sat in the command chair, shoulders heavy with the weight of truth. He looked at the wreckage, 12 ships erased by one, and knew the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. "Send a transmission to Earth Command," he ordered quietly. "Message is simple. Dauntless has engaged the enemy. We are still here." Far across the galaxy, the report arrived at the Imperial throne world. The Emperor himself listened in silence as trembling officers described the annihilation of an entire fleet by a single human ship. At last, he spoke, his voice like cold steel. "Summon the Grand Armada. If the humans have dared to break the order of the stars, then we will remind them who rules the galaxy." The void at Proxima Centauri boiled with light. The Grand Armada of the Galactic Empire had arrived, hundreds of warships in layered formations, shields glittering like a wall of stars. Cruisers, dreadnoughts, carriers, an avalanche of steel and firepower, enough to erase civilizations in hours. Their engines painted the dark with menace, their weapons primed to obliterate. At the head of this armada stood the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominion, a fortress the size of a moon. Its commander, High Admiral Kareth, had crushed rebellions across 100 systems. But as he studied the sensor readings, unease stirred in his chest. This was supposed to be a purge. One human ship. One. And yet, why did he feel as though he was staring into the jaws of something far greater? Aboard USS Dauntless, the crew gazed at the impossible sight before them. The armada filled every screen, stretching from one edge of the void to the other. Against that backdrop, Dauntless was a lone wolf before a pack of titans. Silence held the bridge. Only the ship's hum dared to speak. Captain David Mercer sat in the command chair, his face carved from stone. His hands rested on the armrests, but his eyes burned with something harder than steel. "They're not here to test us," said Commander Sarah Whitfield, her voice hushed. "They're here to end us." Dr. Elias Monroe adjusted his glasses with trembling hands. "Hundreds of ships." "David, we can't." "Yes, we can," David interrupted. His tone carried no doubt, though his eyes flicked once toward Earth's direction, light years away. "Because if we don't, humanity doesn't have a future. This is it. Right here, right now." Sarah straightened, a fierce fire catching in her chest. "Then let's make history." The Empire moved first. A wave of destroyers broke off from the formation, advancing in perfect formation. Plasma cannons lit the dark, streaking toward Dauntless in a storm of fire. "Brace!" Sarah shouted. The first impact slammed into their shields, the ship groaning as energy rippled across its hull. Sparks rained across the bridge. "Shields at 70%. Elias barked. David's jaw clenched. "Evasive. Counterstrike, target their lead ships." Dauntless spun, twisting through incoming fire with inhuman precision. Its gravity drive bent inertia like clay, allowing maneuvers no Imperial pilot had ever witnessed. Weapons flared, gravity lances slicing through destroyers, missiles weaving into clusters before erupting. 24 enemy ships vanished in white fire. But more came. Always more. The Eternal Dominion loomed, its cannons dwarfing entire cities. Admiral Kareth leaned forward, his mandibles clicking in disdain. "So this is the human warship," he muttered. "A beast, yes, but beasts can bleed." He gestured. "All forward fleets. Crush them." The armada surged. The battle became a storm. Wave after wave of Imperial ships hurled themselves at Dauntless. The void burned with fire, debris, and broken hulls. Dauntless danced among them, shields flaring, hull groaning under the strain. Every system screamed red, but still it fought. Reactors running hot. Elias shouted over the din, "Any hotter and she'll tear herself apart." "She holds together," David said firmly. "Because we hold together." Sarah's fingers flew across her console, her voice sharp as a blade. "Portside frigates down. Enemy carrier launching strike craft, Vector 295. Helm, bring us around." David ordered. "Fire everything we've got." Hundreds of drones swarmed, streaking toward Dauntless like a tide of steel insects. Its railguns erupted, mowing them down, but dozens slipped through, detonating across the shields. The ship shuddered, metal groaning in pain. "Shields at 30%. Elias warned. "Then we fight bare." David snarled. 4 hours, the lone ship endured. Where Imperial doctrine dictated overwhelming force, Dauntless relied on impossible tactics, slinging itself between enemy lines, twisting gravity to pull ships into each other, detonating lances that tore entire cruisers apart. But even defiance has limits. On the bridge, lights flickered, alarms wailed. Smoke stung eyes. Blood dripped from Sarah's forehead as she held her post. Elias' hands shook as he rerouted power from life support to weapons. David gripped the chair so tightly his knuckles whitened. They had fought fleets. Now they faced the flagship. The Eternal Dominion filled the viewport, its cannons charging, its silhouette blotting out the stars. One shot could end them. David's voice cut through the chaos. "Elias. Can the drive sustain a gravity inversion?" Elias' head snapped up. "That maneuver? David, it'll fry the core. It'll also give us one shot at collapsing that monster under its own weight." Sarah stared at him. "It's suicide." David met her gaze, steady. "Only if we fail." The Dauntless surged forward, straight toward the Eternal Dominion. Imperial officers watched in disbelief. "They're charging us? One ship?" Admiral Kareth bared his teeth. "Then let them come. Fire." Beams of annihilation erupted from the Dominion, tearing toward the human vessel. Dauntless twisted, shields collapsing, hull plating tearing away, but it pressed on, a dagger aimed at the heart of a god. "Now!" David roared. Elias slammed the controls. The drive howled like a wounded beast. Space itself bent, gravity folding inward, a singularity clawing at the Dominion's massive hull. The flagship screamed as its own mass turned against it. Armor buckled, decks imploded, sections crumpled into themselves. The Eternal Dominion, pride of the Empire, collapsed into a twisted husk. Silence followed. A silence more deafening than any roar. The Empire's armada faltered. Hundreds of ships drifted aimlessly, their commanders staring in shock at the ruin of their flagship. One ship. One human ship had slain their mightiest vessel. Fear spread faster than fire. The once mighty fleet broke, scattering into the void. Some fled, others self-destructed, unwilling to face capture. The Grand Armada, symbol of 10,000 years of supremacy, was gone. On Dauntless, the bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Smoke curled from consoles, sparks flickered, alarms still blinked, but the guns were silent. Outside, wreckage floated like frozen tears. Sarah leaned back, chest heaving. We did it. Elias slumped to the deck, tears streaking his soot-stained face. God help us, we actually did it. David sat motionless for a long moment, then stood. He looked at his crew, their exhaustion, their wounds, their unbreakable resolve, and nodded. Transmit to Earth, he said. His voice carried not just command, but history. Message is simple: humanity stands. When Dauntless returned to Earth's orbit, scarred but alive, the world held its breath. Millions watched as the battered warship descended from the void, its shadow sweeping across oceans and continents. It was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. The Empire had panicked, disbelieved, denied. But the truth was undeniable now. Humans weren't supposed to build warships like this. Yet they did.